I talk about this a lot, but Nella phrases it best for me, which is you will, as an immigrant, you will miss home almost every day of your life. And it doesn't get better as time goes. Like, it just doesn't get better. Like, you just keep missing home because you know what? You miss out on things. People grow up, people die, people move on. Like, life just goes on without you. And you somehow have to just make it work. Like, you just have to just make it work and accept whatever the circumstances are and just live your life as a new person. And it's so tough. Like, it's a tough thing to deal with. But that wasn't just what me and Nella talked about. We talked about her reason for moving, what she felt London was going to be like when she moved. I mean, what she felt was going to be like before she moved and what it was really like. But let's get into it. Enjoy. What led to this? Like, what were you thinking of when you decided, I'm going to move from Kenya to London? Was it, oh, you know what? Some people say, yeah, I'm leaving because I want to experience a new life. Some people say, no, I'm leaving because I want better opportunities. Like, what was it for you?
So for me, yeah, it was that I thought there'd be better opportunities for me career-wise, here in London. And where I'd got to at that time, just around when I moved in Kenya, I think I'd got to a place where I felt that I had learned what I needed to learn, but I needed the next big thing, and I wasn't sure if that would be available, at least in terms of the job market.
Yeah.
So because previously I had come to London and I had seen, just on a short trip, right? I'd come to London and I'd seen what it's like to actually live and work here in like a busy city where everyone is just running off to do something really important, save lives, make money, stuff like that. I just felt that I was ready for the next step. And my options were New York and London, right? But I felt that New York was probably too fast-paced for me. So I just thought that London is a good middle ground and it's in the middle of Europe, lots of beautiful countries around. I just thought that it would be a great place to start. And I felt that there were just great opportunities for me to grow here. And I thought, yeah, why not start a life abroad? Why not? So yeah, that's how that's what got me to this. That's what led me to that decision to move.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a fair call for most people. And so, we met on your Twitter thread, through your Twitter thread. So, and reading that and thinking about the mindset that led to you pouring all that out, has the cost of the move been worth it? And the cost is not financial cost, but the mental cost. Like,
Yeah,
has it been
yeah.
worth it? Yeah.
So if you asked me this question, uh, maybe some 2 weeks ago, I would have said absolutely yes, absolutely yes. But you have good days, you have bad days, you have mad days. The answer changes depending on the kind of day that you have. But if I were to just speak generally, I would say I think it's definitely worth it. I always remind myself that despite all the challenges that I've faced, I'm better because of it. And I am, I'm preparing myself for maybe something bigger, who knows? But I like the fact that the move just it brings out like a different personality in you, right? It brings out, like, because you're tested every single day, you are tested in ways you could never ever understand, in ways you've never been tested before. Things you never thought could happen to you will happen to you, and you're just wondering, yeah, why am I here? But I think, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger.
Yeah.
And also, different perspectives of looking at it is that um I'm able to, I think, give my parents and my family like comfort that I am fine, that everything is going on okay. Um, and I'm able to send money back home. So it's, things like that that just remind you, like, look, you made a good decision. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you made a bad decision just because you have hard days when you're here. Um, just because, even back home, there are good days and bad days. So it's not a bad life, just a bad day. So yeah.
If you think about where you are right now, and I like what you said about what you said where like there are things that happen to you that you're like, God, like I never expected that I would experience this. What have you learned about yourself in the process like this? You've been here 2 years plus now. Like, what have you learned about yourself? Like, there are parts of yourself you didn't know existed, or are there parts of yourself that you've had to literally claw your way out of? I don't know, just curious
Yeah,
level.
yeah, yeah. So I think that, and this is something that came up, I think, on the thread. So when I was back home in Kenya, I think I had a lot more confidence just because I knew the people, I knew the culture, even professionally. Like I knew my way around like clients and stuff like that, right? But then what I've actually learned about myself is if you put me in a situation where I don't know much, my confidence takes a beating. And it's something that I have to be like very deliberate about to try and, not be the most quiet person in the room, to try and engage with people as much as possible. I used to think I'm an extrovert. I don't think that anymore. I don't think that anymore. Like if you put me in a room, I'll probably be quiet, but it's something that I try to address as much as possible. Just speak up, let people hear what you have to say, because it matters. So yeah, it's one of those things that I didn't know about myself, and I'm sure so many people, if they were to see this side of me, like people from back home, they would be stunned.
No, I think you're not being fair to yourself, to be honest. I mean, because look, moving is insane.
It is. It is. It is. It is a big change. It is.
It's insane. So most of us, I mean, like, yeah, me too. Like when I moved, I moved here, and I sometimes I would just shut up. I mean, someone once told me, "Hey, I can't hear you. I can't hear you properly. Like, I don't understand what you're saying." And it took me a while to get out of that mental funk, because whenever I wanted to talk, all I thought about was, "Oh, they don't understand what I'm saying," and so
Yeah,
I would start second guessing every single thing I want to
exactly.
say.
Exactly. Exactly. And over here it's even like I feel like it's so much worse because now you're dealing with like British people with, very posh accents. And here I am with my very Kenyan, very
No, don't
African
do that. Don't
accent.
do that. Don't
I
do
know,
that.
I
No.
know, I know. I know, but like the thought crosses your mind,
Yeah,
right?
true, true.
Crosses your mind. Yeah, and like initially they actually had a hard time understanding what I was saying, but with time you just learn how to speak in a way that they can understand you. It's literally a skill that you pick up. It's a
Yes.
skill, 100%, 100%. So yeah, I 100% agree with you that, it's difficult, but you have to make it work.
Yeah.
You have to make it
Yeah,
work.
because I mean, I remember I sent a voice note to a couple of friends. I have this group of friends. We've known each other for like maybe 15 years now. Like
Yeah,
two of them also are still back in Nigeria. So we have a WhatsApp group where we just chat and talk and banter and all that kind of stuff. And so I sent a
yeah,
voice note in there some weeks ago, and the guy, one of them goes like, "You have an accent now," and I know I know that I don't have an accent. I still feel like when a Canadian hears me speak, he still thinks I probably have a Nigerian accent. And my friends be like,
yeah,
"You have an accent now." I'm like, "No, I don't have an accent." But
yeah,
again, I thought about it, and it's probably that, like you said, you adjust without knowing
yeah,
somehow. I mean, I have two kids, and my first kid, when he talks like a Canadian, and so I've probably adjusted without knowing that I've adjusted, because like your brain is just trying to survive.
exactly, exactly. It's survival instinct. Survival instinct, yes. Yes.
So let's kind of, I want to explore something. You mentioned, which is like how hard it is to make friends living in London.
Yeah.
You know, do you think is a function of? You think it's a function of you dealing with your confidence, or you think it's a function of tribes that have already been formed over time, and so it's very difficult for you to break into those tribes because you also still need to learn all the cultural cliches that rule how those tribes exist within that within your city at that point in time?
Yeah.
Or is it just you? So if you need to first of all build yourself up, and then it becomes easier to make friends.
Yeah, so I think for me it's a bit of both, right? I I just think that back home in Kenya, it was a lot easier to make friends just because, I was out there, I was an extrovert, it was easy for me to chat up people, right? But when I'm here, I just second guess every single time I want to approach someone. Also because of the culture here, right? Like from what I have seen and learnt about Londoners, for instance, they like to mind their business. They don't like to interfere with other people's businesses. They just want you to leave them alone, right? So with that in mind, if I want to like actually make the first step, I think about it twice, three times. I'm like, you know what? I don't want to offend this person. So typically I just wait until, I see someone who's a little friendly, then I make a move and we try and make a friendship. But at the same time, it's just that thing about I don't think people here are as warm as or as welcoming as they are back home. So like back home in Kenya, if like there was a foreigner or an outsider who came into one of my circles, they would be invited in very quickly. Um, everyone would take very deliberate actions to try and involve them in, activities, which is how you build friendship anyway, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that I've felt that here, but I also don't want to blame the people, right? I think it's a mix of many things. I think the other thing also is you need to find friends who like you share some common interests, and interests here are so varied. You find people who are into skiing, people who are into bouldering, whatever that is, um hiking, people who are into clubbing, things like that. It's I guess it's just hard to find like-minded people in a city so large. Yeah. It's one of those things.
Yeah. And I think also, like, you're right to say, like, I feel like there's two sides to it. There's just you dealing with because I also experience it myself. Like, so someone like my wife is someone, she's able to just make friends easily. She's more extroverted than
Yeah,
I am, and I'm not sure she
yeah,
changed that much when she moved here. Um, but I do think that there's a mix of both, in the sense that the cultural difference is real. Like,
yeah,
back home in Africa, most African countries, it's a bit more, groups are a bit more, you allow outsiders in much easier
yeah,
than they allow outsiders in here. Like, if you're an outsider here, it's a bit crazy to kind of break into the circle sometimes. Like, you can find your way into the circle,
yeah,
but you'll get the sense that you're an outsider. So you're in the circle with them and you're talking and stuff, but you
yeah,
still feel like, okay, I still need to do something to kind of fit in. And then again, it's up to you to kind of say, you know what, am I willing to do the work that is needed to kind of fit
yeah,
into this circle of people,
exactly, exactly.
you know? And kind of staying on this, aside from just the friendship part, like, what are the biggest cultural differences that have hit you really hard while living where?
Oof. The biggest that I
You're allowed to
mentioned.
swear, don't worry. The kids don't watch this.
Yeah, okay. So the one, oh my God, the one that I mentioned, which was the first one on my thread, which is that people here don't say what they mean, and you have to like really read in between the lines to understand what they're saying. Oh my God. Oh my God. It is the hardest thing to learn completely. because so like I give the example where if your house is on fire, your wife has left you, your kids have died, they'll say something like, yeah, it's less than ideal. Like, what do you mean it's less than ideal? My whole world is on fire. Someone save me right now. They never tell you exactly what they think. So you kind of have to learn how to read in between the lines. And the flip side of it is, if you're direct with someone, then they take offense. Like, it's so offensive to them. It's like, how dare you say that? That's not polite. That's not proper. So it's a communication thing which you actually have to learn. And it takes forever to learn. It took me such a long time. It's just like, why is everything always so positive? Like, am I always doing the right thing? You know? And it's not that it's always positive, it's that they're trying to be, polite.
Yeah.
You have to read between the lines to, yeah.
I agree. There's this book I'm reading called The Culture Map, where it talks about how, like, British culture is, when they give feedback,
Yeah.
the feedback is indirect. It's never said, like, and you have to now
Yeah.
try to understand that. However, when they talk, they can be direct when they talk. They can be straightforward when they say things. But
Yeah.
once it's about giving you feedback or telling you something, they're never going to tell it to you directly. It's going to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
couched in innuendos and beautiful words and stuff
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. And I'm like, oh gosh, yeah, that's
Just say it. Say what you mean. Say what you mean. It's so hard to understand. Oh my God. Yeah. Especially so, like, when I would have my appraisals at work, it's one of those things where I would, like, after the appraisal, I'd go thinking, was that a good appraisal or a bad one? I'm not sure anymore, you know? So it's one of those things. I think the other culture shock that I had was, people here are just, um they operate from a level of trust which I haven't seen back home. So I think the easiest example is, you scan your own things in the supermarket and then you just hop on and leave. Could never happen in Nairobi. Oh my God. Even the people who are actually not thieves would be encouraged to steal just because there's the opportunity to steal, right? But here people operate from that, a trust culture that, if you leave a lime bike outside, no one is going to steal it. Um, or, it's just, I find it really strange, and I really struggled with it. I just thought, wow, some of the things that are happening here could never ever happen back home. Crazy, crazy. But that's a great thing, right? And it's
yeah,
something I think we could learn from.
yeah. I call that thing, they say the society is a high trust society, and so
Yeah,
it makes a couple of things much easier to deal with.
yeah,
The things that they just assume that, okay, it's gonna be, once you say I'm doing this, I'm doing
yeah,
this. Once something is dropped here, no one is touching it. I mean, every now and then there are individuals who still do shady stuff and all that. But
yeah,
I feel like you
obviously.
have a majority of people who are on the trust side than people who are on the low trust side, which is
Yeah,
an
yeah,
overall positive.
100%.
You know, we're going to kind of start rounding up now, but there's something you said that is really so powerful. And I had never thought about it that way till I saw you put it, which is, you'll miss home every day of your life and it doesn't get any easier.
In fact, I really thought, and the funny thing is, so, like, I'm one of those kids who went to boarding school. Um, I moved out of home and just went out on my own, just after uni. So I just felt that, I've spent a good amount of time away from family. I should be able to survive living abroad. But it's so different. It's so different. So I'll give an example that my dad is my best friend, right? And even when we never used to live in the same house, any slight thing that happens, I would just pick up the phone and, oh my God, this just happened, blah blah blah. And I don't feel like I have the same experience over here. Before you call, you need to find out, okay, so the 3 hours ahead. They're probably asleep right now. They're probably in church. They're probably doing something, blah, blah, blah. And then there's also the headache of, you have to show up for yourself without like family. I mean, they're always just a call away, but if I'm sick, what can they do? What can they do about that? All they can do is just call me, blah blah blah. At least when I was back home, I had the comfort of knowing that my parents could just drop by anytime. And I just don't have that. Like the physical distance actually puts a strain on the relationship, and you will miss them every single day. Every single day, there's just something, something tiny that you see or that you experience that you're like, oh man, I wish my folks were here. I wish my friends would see this. And by the time you're making the call to just explain, the excitement has fizzled out or something like that. So it's an adjustment, but it's something you have to learn to live with. Like you miss them and you still love them from where they are. But at the same time, I just have to, I have to be very deliberate about maintaining the relationships. Like I absolutely call my parents every day if I can. Of late, I've been really busy at work, so I haven't had the time, but I keep communicating with them and stuff like that. And then the other thing that really pains me is that life goes on back home and you don't get to know about it so many times, right? And so like the one that absolutely just broke my heart is, so I have an older brother, and he was seeing this girl for a while, and they decided to take the next step. But when all this was happening, I was already in London and I had no idea, right? And these are people I talk to every day. I literally talk to my brother every day and ask him, so how's your day? How's everything going? He never mentions that, I'm about to start doing like the traditional weddings, blah, 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 stuff like that. And I found out as a, by the like as a footnote,
Gosh.
in a conversation, like, yeah, so when you're going for your traditional wedding next week, I'm like, wait, just what's happening? So it's so easy for things to just miss you, like very important milestones in other people's lives, which I would have loved to experience and be there for them or celebrate with them, which you're not able to, but you just have to try and bridge that gap. However you do it, just find a way to deal with it, right? So it's one of those things. Life actually moves on. It doesn't stop from where you left it. People grow up, people die, people change. It's different. It's very different.
Yeah, because my dad passed away last year.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Thanks. Passed away last year. I was here when he passed away. Now, the last time I saw my dad was just before they shut down Nigeria shut down the airport. He was in my house. He decided he was going to go back home. So I took him to the airport, and then he flew back home. And then I left the country after like 8 months or so, because then the whole world shut down. I couldn't see him.
So this was COVID time?
Yeah, this was COVID time. So I left Nigeria 2021. I last saw him March 2020. The last I saw my dad, dead or alive, was March 2020. Because he passed away last year and he instructed that he be buried that same day. So all I have of my dad is a picture.
Yeah.
And you're so right. Like life just goes on. And it's wild how life just goes on.
It does.
You just have to find a way to deal with it. And I absolutely hate that part of it. Is it doesn't stop. People are
Yeah.
changing, people are dying, people are growing up, people have to live their lives.
Yeah.
You become an option because all they have of you is a phone where they see you, and if you're lucky enough, you all do video calls every now and then if you can find the time.
It's hard. It is hard. It
Yeah.
is hard. Yeah. So what I try to do nowadays is just one, if I feel that I need to talk to someone like back home, if I think about them, give them a call immediately. I don't care if it's 11. Because I also had like one of those experiences when I was here, and my brother just called me randomly and told me, "Do you know, like one of my closest friends was in a coma?" And I'm like, "Wait, what?" And you just feel so helpless being like thousands of kilometers away. There's nothing you can do for them. You can't visit, you can't send food, you can all you can do is just, check on them, probably send money, and that's it. So all I just try to do nowadays is just try to keep the connection going. If I think about someone and I think, I haven't spoken to them in a while, I just pick up the phone, send a message, or call, just try and, have a good relationship despite the distance. And then if I get a chance to go back home, I always try to meet up with my closest friends just to try and catch up on their lives, see how, I saw you 8 months ago, so what has changed? Yeah, you have a new boyfriend now, you're engaged, you have a child, things like that. Because you have to make do with the circumstances. Yeah.
Yeah. So, my second to last question is, what did you think London was going to be like before you moved, and what was it really like for you?
Oh, that's a great question. But the short answer is I think it met my expectations, but there are just some things that you have to experience to be like, wow, mind blowing, right? So for one, I knew London was going to be fast paced, and in that sense, I was correct. Two, I expected racism. I can't say that I have experienced racism, but I'll caveat this and say, you remember that thing we talked about earlier on when I said British people don't really say what they mean? It's very easy for that to go over your head, right? But I wouldn't say anyone has ever treated me differently just because I'm African, I'm black. Even on my team, despite the fact that I'm the only black person on my team of like 70 people, um, no one treated me differently. So I expected racism, did not get racism. Um, Other thing is I expected life to be a lot, I don't know how else to phrase it, but I thought my life would be more glamorous. It's really not. It's just a very ordinary life of just, waking up, going to work, coming back home, doing house chores, good night. It's not like a fancy London lifestyle, of partying on yachts or it's very boring, very normal, right? But then you just have, I guess, a few of those moments where you experience like the really good things about it, and you're like, yeah, that's the London that I was hoping to see, and it's the one I've seen today. Good job. Um, did I talk about the fact that I expected it to be expensive?
No, you haven't said that.
I thought it would be expensive, but my lord, it's a lot more expensive than I could ever wrap my head around it. Wow. It hits differently every time. So I stopped converting to like Kenya shillings. I'm just like, nope, I will not do that to myself. It's expensive, but it is what it is. It's London. Just accept it.
Yeah, you must never do that transactional thing. You must never do that. Like it's hard to stop doing it. It takes you about like a year or two to kind of get out of that place.
Yeah.
But you must never.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. The other thing I really expected about London was I know this is going to sound like really stupid, but I expected more like British people. But I've found that London actually like is a proper healthy mix. I would say what these are just my own stats. Do not quote me anywhere. I would say in a group of 3 people, one is an immigrant. And so that's, I guess, there's like some sense of relief in the sense of knowing that at least I'm not like sticking out like a sore thumb. So I guess that was my expectation, like more British people, but then I found it's a lot more diverse than I thought it would be, which is a good thing, honestly. It's great. It's great. Yeah, I think those were my expectations of London. And yeah, and how I've come to find it, which is slightly different.
So the last question, I think it's the most difficult one.
Yeah.
How has your definition of home changed since you moved? Like, what does home mean to you now?
That's a difficult question.
That's why
Oh my
I
God.
left it for the last one.
Oh, the truth of the matter is, I feel that home will always be like back home in Kenya. And I feel like this is a lot more, I don't want to say temporary, because not really, but all my sense of belonging and culture and just identity is rooted back home. Of course, I can pick up a few things here and there, but my first reference will always be Kenya. So I think my definition of home is where my family is, where my friends are, and where my identity is rooted. And that, for me, at least at this present moment, sits firmly in Kenya. So I would say I still think that home is, back home in Kenya. And this is just, a house, like the house that you go to work in the city and then you go back home to your wife and kids later on, like end of the week or end of the month or something like that. But yeah, I tried to make it homely. So like the first Christmas that I had here, I put up a tree, did like the whole Christmas dishes, but it's not the same even without, the people, the friends, yeah, it's different.
Do you think that's going to change? Like, if you get a partner, you have kids, or you have family around, the sort of
I,
thing? You think that's going to
yeah,
change, right?
I definitely think so. I think that if I get a partner, get married, get kids, then that will become home for me, because I guess that would be like my new support system and everything that I would pour my life into, So I think that would definitely change if I were to get like a partner and kids or something like that. Fingers crossed for me.
So I'll add that it was difficult, but thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being so open about it. Like, because I do know, like, moving is tough. Like, it is tough. No, people gloss over it. People talk about tips and stuff, and I'm like, no. The real thing is in the mental shift you
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
do to get going.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. This is my first podcast interview, so yay!
I really hope you enjoyed that, because I did. I feel like all these conversations are like therapy for me, to be honest. And I hope it's like therapy for the guests too. It's like therapy for me, because you just get to talk about stuff you think about all the time. But again, as always, please like, share. If you know someone who finds it useful, please send to them. I really appreciate that. Again, we're on Substack, YouTube, Apple Podcasts. Anywhere you get a podcast, we're on there. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day.